Was the Oneplus 2 really worth that hype? And should you still be waiting for the invite the way you are waiting? Let's find out the answer to these and many more such questions in this video because this is a full review of the Oneplus 2. So the phone's design might be appealing to most of you out there, but with all that awesome look and the beautiful refreshed sandstone back, there was some room for a little dissatisfaction as well. The Oneplus 2, despite of having good looks, is thick, lying at 9.9mm and being heavier than the Oneplus One, about 16 grams. Even though it's not as broad as its predecessor, it gives a slightly compact feel while holding in the hand. Although that extra weight and thickness might strain your hand if you're coming from a thinner and a lighter phone. At the back of the device we come across a 13 megapixel 6-lens camera once again, but this time with OIS and laser autofocus that result in high focusing speeds. And at the front we have a 5 megapixel camera. For a deeper look into the cameras, feel free to check out my camera review of the Oneplus 2. Under the hood we have a 3300 mAh battery, which we will get to in a bit, an octa-core SoC, a Snapdragon 810 chipset, and an Adreno 430 to handle all the graphics. At the face of the device, we still have a Full HD screen and not a 1440 QHD screen. However, we all did expect the Oneplus 2 to come with a 1440p display, but the 1080p screen is not a bad option either. And this time it's claimed to be better than the 1080p screen we have on the Oneplus One. I did not find much of a difference between the screens of the Oneplus One and the 2, but however the whites were much whiter on the One rather than the 2, which had a yellow tint in white areas. In many places the screen on the Oneplus One was better, and in many places it was the 2 that seemed to be much better. I am unaware if OnePlus 2 still consists of the JDI screen, which might be making that difference. Overall, the screen on the OnePlus 2 is a big improvement because it is easier to look at the screen under direct sunlight, and also the brightness gets very high and also tends to get very low if you are in dark places and don't want to strain your eyes. The battery department here is a bit of a concern. Yet again, this time the battery is not a removable battery, even though the back panel is easily removable. Even though the battery has a good number, the performance is not the best out there. On a personal note, I expected at least 6.5 hours of SOT, that is screen on time, with that kind of battery, but what I myself and pretty much everyone else got was way lower than that. We might need a few updates to get the perfect battery life. Now let's move to the most hyped parts of the phone, the USB Type-C and the fingerprint sensor. Well, the USB Type-C is more of a disadvantage than an advantage. With its introduction, we lose the functionality of quick charge, which is a big downside of the USB Type-C in the OnePlus 2. The mere advantage is that the cable is reversible. Another disadvantage is that the Type-C cable is not very common. So if you somehow manage to damage the cable or just lose it or forget to carry it with yourself on a journey, you cannot easily get another Type-C cable that charges your OnePlus 2. This is just because the Type-C cable is not so popular in smartphones these days, and the Type-C port is still going to take a lot of time to replace the standard USB port universally. The fingerprint sensor here performs as expected. It is very quick and smooth and with rare misses. The fingerprint sensor has the ability to store up to 5 different fingerprints that unlock your device. This feature came in very handy to me, and I also believe that it is much better to just keep your finger on the sensor to unlock rather than swiping your finger across the sensor only to see that you need to swipe again. No offense, Samsung. Coming down towards the speaker grills, it's very disappointing to know that out of the two, only one of them works for multimedia, and it easily gets covered with your finger and the sound literally gets muted. That was not the news we were looking for with the two. The OnePlus 2's notification toggle is one of a kind invention, but to me it's kind of unnecessary as I don't use it very much, but yet it's a pretty neat addition. Very cool. Now let's move to the internals. The phone is now working on Oxygen OS 2.0, which is based on Android 5.1 Lollipop. So after using this phone for a day or two, I got an OTA for the Oxygen OS 2.0.1 and then 2.0.2 just a few days after. These updates seem to fix small bugs and issues with the phone, mainly stage fright issues, and miscellaneous other bugs such as the ones from keyboards. The Swift key keyboard was not very responsive at first, and with that it's worth mentioning that OnePlus 2 comes with Swift key keyboard and the Google stock keyboard pre-installed. So so this is going to be an interesting point for the Swift key users. In addition to all those little tweaks done by the company, they have also introduced Shelf. Shelf is kind of like the Google Now side screen. Just instead of the preferred stories and reminders like the Google Now, Shelf shows the most visited apps of all times and the most frequently called contacts. Other than that, the Shelf part is very customizable. Starting from changing the banner photo, you can add or remove widgets from the Shelf itself. So it basically becomes a hub of your widgets and stuff. The thing we need to think about is that why do we have a home screen on the Oneplus 2 then? It was good to see that all the off-screen gestures still prevail in the Oneplus 2, which were introduced by the Oneplus One. So if you are coming from the One, home sweet home guys. With all the great things in Shelf, there also comes a downside. Sometimes the Shelf becomes unresponsive and doesn't let you scroll up or down. That doesn't mean your phone has hanged or something. You can definitely get back to the home screen, but when you come back, the problem still might not be solved. Then you've got to wait a little more while before accessing Shelf. Other than that bug, it's an impressive addition. The phone tends to get warmed up or even heat a little bit while gaming or just going around the phone or even just charging. But by no way it overheats. That is mainly because of the Snapdragon 810 processor. Where the SD810 used to overheat, the second gen of the same processor in the Oneplus 2 doesn't burn the phone up. It is bearable but cannot be neglected. In addition to all the good things, the Oneplus 2 is a 4G enabled dual SIM phone. The SIM tray this time lies under the back panel and not on the sides. The back panel is also very easy to remove this time, unlike the Oneplus One, and the back is much more customizable. There are around 5 different back panels available to swap with. The storage options are very similar to the last year's, that is 16 gigs and 64 gigs, but here too we have a little bit of a twist. The 16 gig variant that comes for around $329 come with 3 gigs of RAM, whereas the 64 GB that comes for around $389 come with 4 gigs of RAM. Whereas with the OnePlus One, both the storage options had the same 3 gigs of RAM. Having been using this phone for so many days now, I saw a few issues with the calls. The calls used to drop in between and sometimes the dialer app used to hang itself while during a call, which means you can neither disconnect or accept a call during a call. I also noticed quite frequent signal drops. The carrier network was not very good on the phone, but it seemed like the initial OTA did the trick and fixed it. Whereas the speaker on the other hand was loud and clear. The phone's OS is not very refined. The OnePlus 2 doesn't have a dedicated gallery app. Also, I didn't see an email client in the OnePlus 2 except for Gmail itself. However, these could be downloaded separately from the Play Store. I did not see a lot of difference using a 3GB RAM OnePlus One and a 4GB RAM OnePlus 2. The performance was equal on both devices, and as far as the animations were concerned, the OnePlus 2 did not have the smoothest animations even with the 4 gigs of RAM. In many places, the OnePlus One seemed to be faster, and I have no explanation why was that so. I didn't drop the phone once due to its grippy back and sides, and maybe no one else would really drop it. But even if you did, your screen should be fine and safe because of the Gorilla Glass 4 coating on the top. No guarantees from my side. Gaming on this device is not a problem at all. The games run fabulously, but the only disadvantage here is that the phone tends to heat up while gaming. By no means, again, it starts to overheat. It does not overheat, which is a very good thing. The absence of NFC this time was a little pain, as I personally use NFC a lot in my day-to-day life. This time again, the phone doesn't come with expandable storage, which might be a downside for the ones using the 16 gigs of the OnePlus 2. Summing up my entire review in just a few sentences, the OnePlus 2 has a lot to offer. With that price tag, it still manages to provide some serious top-of-the-line specs. The performance of the phone as a whole was very good, but not the greatest. The battery and the yellowish whites can still be improved by the developing team at OnePlus if they roll out an OTA update for the Pixel. The fingerprint sensor is an awesome addition, and it was not possible earlier for us to get it in such a price. It's fast and accurate. The notification slider is also a cool addition, but in a personal perspective, I didn't use it very often, and so I didn't feel the need to have it. The phone is bulky and heavy, and the weight distribution kind of sucks all around the device, which might tire your hand. The bags are easily removable and can be swapped with other bags. And lastly, the software experience was not the top of the level but good. Maybe because I am coming from a more flexible thing called Cyanogen OS. We still need a lot of additions and improvement in that area. All in all, Oneplus 2 was not worth the hype that was created by them. Sorry Oneplus. Thanks for letting your time here. I hope you guys can make your decision about getting the Oneplus 2 or not, provided if you have the invites. Sorry to hurt your feelings there. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button below the video or just click on my channel logo at the bottom right corner. And make sure you hit that like button too. I'll see you guys in the next video.